Hello out there, everybody in YouTube land, all my chatters and my Memorex viewers and my lurkers and everybody that tunes into the show. Here we are on the 20th day of July in 2016 on a Wednesday. Here in Indiana, the temperature is up about 85 degrees and the humidity's at about 50%. So it's a little drier than it has been. Wednesday. And just been muddling around here this morning, haven't got a whole lot accomplished. But some days are like that, you know. Some days you need to relax and lay back a little bit. Give the world a chance to catch up to you. I looked at the garden a little bit this morning. Everything out there is doing well. I'll have squash soon, and I've got some green tomatoes out there that's about ready to be picked for the frying pan. And I've got grapes just hanging in wads out there. Man, oh man, when they get ripened up this fall, there's going to be grapes enough for me and everybody in town, I think. There's lots of stuff growing out there. The potatoes are doing well, sweet potatoes. I got rutabagas coming on, carrots, and a few onions. Onions didn't do very good for me this year. Got them out a little late. And the birds got to the garlic, so I don't know that I'll have much in the way of garlic, but hey, you know, some years are like that. I picked a cucumber out there this morning, brought it in, so this afternoon I'll be slicing that up. And let's see, beans and peas, they'll be ready to probably finish off picking about Friday, I think. Lettuce is about to bolt, so I don't know. I'm probably going to be out of lettuce here soon. Trying to think what all else I got out there. I got bottle gourds growing. I got loofah gourds growing. There's some sweet corn made it. There was a windstorm come through and flattened a lot of it, but there's a little bit of sweet corn I think going to make it, and it's getting some tassels on it. And oh, there's a bunch of other stuff. Too much stuff to remember what all I've got planted out there, but it's going to be a nice garden. There's some watermelons that are blooming out there, so I'll probably have some watermelons in a month or so. But yeah, got a few things going out there in the garden. And it's been kind of quiet in the hood today, nothing much going on, a little bit of breeze, see a few leaves are twitching on the trees, so going to be a beautiful day today. I hope everybody gets out there this afternoon and enjoys a little bit of it, appreciates what we've got going for us. We've got a bunch of news to share with you today, so we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. The first one that I've got for you is off of CNN. And, well, before I even jump into that, I will mention that most of you probably know by now that Donald Trump won the nomination for the Republican Party. So it's going to be Donald coming up. And let's see, the big news, I guess, on that front is his wife's speech that she made, and they're claiming that she plagiarized the Michelle Obama speech from a few years ago. So there's a little controversy going on there. I don't know. I think if I was the Trumps, I'd be kind of upset of whoever come up with that speech, copying a bunch of it out of Obama's speech. You know, that that wouldn't sit real well with me if I was the one giving the speech and found out somebody had done something like that to me. Woo-wee. But, oh, well, you know, the next drama that comes along, everybody will forget all about it and move on to something else. But this was off of CNN Politics, and it's about Hillary. Hillary Clinton is spending 2 days at home in New York finalizing her decision for a running mate before formally introducing her Democratic ticket during a weekend campaign swing in Florida, according to several Democrats familiar with the search. Clinton is planning to announce her decision in a message to supporters, campaign official told CNN, and make her first appearance with her vice presidential candidate in Tampa on Friday or Miami on Saturday. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia and Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack have emerged as leading contenders after a rigorous vetting process. Democrats close to the selection believe, but they are not the only two prospects still in contention. The convention wisdom in this case seems likely to be right, one Democrat close to Clinton told CNN, believing Kaine has the upper hand, but cautioning that Clinton could still deliver a surprise. Clinton has not made her final decision, an aide said, or if she has, she's not disclosed it. Even the small universe of advisors working on the selection process who are making plans to help on the announcement are not certain who she will choose. She has consulted many people for thoughts and advice, including President Barack Obama, who is close to Kaine, and Vilsack, who serve in his cabinet. Tim Kaine has a quote here: "I'm strong supporter of Roe versus Wade." The deliberations led by campaign chairman John Podesta have been extraordinarily private, a striking contrast to those of Donald Trump. But Democrats say former President Bill Clinton has also been involved in discussions and is impressed by Kaine, who has the support of Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, a longtime Clinton ally. He gets a say but doesn't have a vote on this, one Clinton friend said of the former president. Several Democratic senators, donors, and people close to the campaign who have spoken to Clinton say she's aware of the criticism that neither Kaine nor Vilsack is seen as a particularly flashy or exciting candidate. She also has considered Labor Secretary Tom Perez, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, and Sherrod Brown, in addition to others. "I love that about him," Clinton told CBS Charlie Rose Monday night when asked about Kaine being too boring, something the Virginia senator has joked about. "He was a world-class mayor, governor, and senator, and is one of the most highly respected senators I know." Clinton praised several candidates, saying she has the blessing of having some excellent choices. Tim Kaine might be the Clintons' man for the moment on guns. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, who said Clinton also met with on Friday, is still in discussion as well, but would be a stunning surprise, in the words of one Democrat close to the process. The location of Florida leads many to believe it would be an ideal place to unveil Kaine, who speaks fluent Spanish. Clinton will visit Orlando on Friday, scheduled to meet with victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting, and travel to Tampa for a campaign rally later that day at the Florida State Fairgrounds. She will hold a rally on Saturday at Florida International University in Miami. Clinton aides, who were far from open about the vice presidential process, have grown even more tight about information after watching how Trump's vice presidential rollout played out. Laughing at times from their Brooklyn headquarters, Clinton top aides pledged to avoid leaks and embarrassing stories that plagued Trump's announcement of Indiana Governor Mike Pence. Political prediction market: Clinton crushing Trump. What Pence did provide the Clinton campaign is more freedom to pick someone who doesn't solidify a Democratic base. Should Trump have picked a woman or a black or Latino vice president candidate, Clinton aides thought they would have to match Trump's pick to respond, but with Trump picking Pence, a well-liked establishment figure, aides feel they have more leeway to pick a more run-of-the-mill candidate. Clinton has demanded a secretive selection process, even as she has campaigned alongside Kaine, Warren, and other contenders in plain sight. Kaine would be best, but you know the Clintons. One top Democrat said they may do something more calculating. So there is the news on Hillary and picking a running mate. And the next article that I have for you is about the RNC. This is out of Daily Mail News. Conservative radio talk show host Alex Jones is rescued by police after protesters shouting "Nazi scum" attack him outside a Republican convention. Police had to rescue conservative radio host Alex Jones after two protesters started a scuffle outside the Republican National Convention. The right-wing conspiracy theorist was walking around near the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland on Tuesday with a bullhorn when two members of the Communist Party allegedly attacked him. It happened during a demonstration against police shootings of African Americans that devolved into mayhem and violent brawls. The pair of activists were shouting Nazi scum as they walked towards the journalist and pushed him, according to reports. Witnesses say he challenged the assembled crowd that included members of Black Lives Matter, and a few protesters punched him. Police immediately moved to separate the two sides. It was just one of many brawls that broke out the day Donald Trump was confirmed as Republican nominee for president. Approximately 100 police officers separated dueling groups and maintained a strict cordon, quickly diffusing tensions between rival protesters who also numbered around 100. There were no arrests, police said, despite several tense moments that saw officers step in between protesters, pushing and shouting at each other. Overall, 5 people have been arrested since the convention started, said police spokesman Sergeant Jennifer Kaikake, I guess is how it's pronounced. That includes 1 person accused of trying to steal state troopers' gas mask and 3 people who allegedly climbed flagpoles at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and hung an anti-Donald Trump banner. The demonstration on Tuesday included anti-Muslim protesters, religious conservatives, and marchers decrying racism and murder by police appeared outnumbered by law officers and members of the media. Demonstrators soon spilled into the streets, and some appeared to be making their way toward the convention arena before turning back. More skirmishes broke out, all at one intersection. But by the evening, the protests were breaking up. Cleveland Police Chief Calvin Williams waded into crowds of demonstrators during the day, warning one group, "It's unlawful gathering. You're blocking a city street." They eventually moved along. About 300 officers from more than a dozen law enforcement agencies are patrolling on bicycles in downtown Cleveland during the convention, the police chief said. Supporters of bike patrol say they make officers more maneuverable and less threatening looking at a time when tensions are running high between police and the public. Also Tuesday, health officials said 11 members of the planning team for California delegation to the Republican convention were recovering from a bout of norovirus, or what's commonly known as stomach flu. No delegates appeared to be affected. The symptoms, which can include vomiting and diarrhea, were first reported Thursday as logistic members arrived at a hotel about an hour west of Cleveland, said Pete Shade, Erie County Health Commissioner. Those who got sick are keeping themselves isolated in their rooms, Shade said, and the Ohio Health Department is trying to identify the source. Norovirus can be contracted from an infected person, from contaminated food or water, or by touching contaminated surfaces. Ohio Health Department spokesman Russ Kennedy would only confirm one of the suspected norovirus cases. He then said the victim was infected before arriving in Ohio. Cynthia Bryant, executive director of the California GOP, told delegation members to wash their hands frequently and avoid shaking hands and not share food. So there is that little tidbit. And the next one I have here is off of cleveland.com, and it says anonymous demonstrators detained with gas mask, knife, and slingshot at the RNC. Cleveland, Ohio. 2 men claiming allegiance to the Hack Twist Collective Anonymous were confronted by police Monday evening during a Republican National Convention demonstration in downtown Cleveland. The men, who wore scarves over their faces, said that police confiscated their gas mask and a small knife after a brief argument with police officers. One of the men, who only identified himself as Aaron from Columbus, said he brought the mask and the 2-inch knife for his own protection. Police also confiscated a slingshot. 2 protesters were briefly detained, but both were released without criminal charges. So there's the anonymous report. And let's see, the next one I have here is, let's see, this is called The Burning Platform, Not a White Problem. The statistics in the chart below, and this, of course, is included in the description of the video. So if you want to take a look at the chart, you can do that at your leisure. But it says the statistics in the chart below are representative of every Democrat-controlled urban, potty hole city in America. Obama and his anti-gun activist minions are peddling a false narrative about guns because they understand most Americans are dumber than a sack of hammers and easily manipulated by propaganda. Obama uses every high-profile shooting to blame guns in order to deflect people from seeing the truth. And the truth is guns are not the problem in white America. It's only a problem in the urban ghettos with the toughest gun laws run by Democrat mayors and city councils. Chicago is a perfect example of Obama ignoring the real problem. 50 years of welfare programs and treating black people like victims has created a dysfunctional system leading to hopelessness, crime, and perpetual poverty. Chicago is 32% white, but they commit only 3.5% of the murders. Over 96% of the murders are committed by non-whites, essentially, it is young black men murdering other black men. White people are not in the equation and are not part of the problem. It's a black problem framed as gun problem by Obama and his lying apparatchiks. And the chart is very interesting, so I do advise you to take a look at that. And the article goes on to say there are approximately 8,000 gun-related homicides annually in the U.S. Vast majority occur in the urban ghetto and are committed by blacks and Hispanics against other blacks and Hispanics. They are legally acquired guns, so more gun laws will do nothing. Their lawless culture, requiring no personal responsibility by those who father children, create the dysfunction and crime. The urban ghetto kill zones all have the same thing in common, run by liberal Democrats for decades, with poverty created by their welfare policies, dreadful public schools, and black population who don't work and take no personal responsibility for their lives or their children. Here are the murders by city for sampling of these places. Los Angeles, 587. Chicago, 508. New York City, 333. Detroit, 316. Philadelphia, 248, Baltimore 233, New Orleans 150, Indianapolis 129, Memphis 124, St. Louis 120, Newark 112, Milwaukee 104, Washington D.C. 103. There are dozens of other places like Camden, Kansas City, Atlanta, Oakland, Pittsburgh, and Miami with extremely high murder rates, and in every case more than 90% are committed by non-whites. Why don't you hear Obama giving speeches about black communities policing themselves and taking responsibility for the crime, drugs, and murder in their neighborhoods? He has no problem with proclamations about white people clinging to their guns in middle America where there are virtually no murders. The entire gun narrative peddled by liberals is false. The crime rate has been falling for 25 years. There were 24,703 murders in 1991 when the population was 253 million. Murders in 2014 totaled 14,249 with a population of 317 million. The willfully ignorant American public completely buys the falsehood presented by Obama and believes murders and crimes are skyrocketing. Today, the national crime rate is about half of what it was at its height in 1991. Violent crime has fallen by 51% since 1991 and property crime by 43%. In 2013, the violent crime rate was the lowest since 1970, and this holds true for unreported crimes as well. According to the National Crime Victimization Survey, since 1993, the rate of violent crime has declined from 79.8% to 23.2% victimizations per 1,000 people. So with homicides at a 25-year low and completely confined to the urban ghettos where young black men kill other young black men, we need new gun laws to restrict what white people can own? That makes you wonder. Why has the government militarized local police forces across the country in white communities when crime and murder is virtually non-existent in those communities? Why is Obama and his liberal Nazi horde trying to ban any gun capable of providing defense against a tyrannical government? Why has this become a war on whites when it's solely a black problem? It's almost as if the government is treating the working class whites with guns as the enemy. I wonder. So there is a nice Second Amendment article. And let's see here. This one is off of yournewswire.com. Jacob Rothschild says Putin, a traitor to the New World Order. Putin's refusal to toe the NWO line makes Jacob Rothschild nervous, as he needs Russia on their side in order to fulfill the Illuminati agenda. ConspiracyClub.co reports Obama is really getting on Putin's nerves, though, because he can't see why he's doing the things he's doing to his own people and warning Americans, keep your gun. I know no more than anyone else about Putin, but I can deduce some things that might make sense. Does it mean that he could not turn on them and betray them? No, it just means, excuse me, I missed a part here. First, he would not have reached high up as he has, just like in America. He has not been one of them and on their side. He would never have been head of the intelligence KGB if he was not one of them, and would never have made it to president. Does that mean he cannot turn on them and betray them? No, it just means that even if he had, he still has not suffered like the others who have betrayed the group. So I found that interesting, that the Rothschilds have showed up here in an article trying to blast Putin. And then we have, off of the Washington Post, Turkey bans all academics from travel in the latest post-coup measure. Back to the coup in Istanbul. Turkey issued a blanket travel ban on all academic and open top-to-bottom investigations into military courts Wednesday, as security chiefs planned the next steps in sweeping crackdowns after last week's failed coup. Already, the purges and probes have touched tens of thousands of people, judges, civil servants, military, police, and others, as Turkey's leaders seek to root out opponents and perceived internal dissent. The latest moves underscored the expanding reach of the fallout. At least 262 military judges and prosecutors were suspended as part of a full-scale investigation by the Defense Ministry into all personnel in its judiciary, the private NTV broadcaster reported, without giving additional details. The travel restrictions on educators, reported the state broadcaster TRT, came after more than 15,000 education workers were suspended and resignations were demanded for all university deans. The government is presenting the measure as effort to confront a wide-ranging conspiracy led by a U.S.-based Turkish cleric and a way of curbing the influence of the once powerful military. Critics, however, claim that the government of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is using the coup attempt as an excuse to eliminate the last vestiges of opposition to its rule. Fethullah Gulen, the cleric accused of inspiring the coup attempt, has denied any links to the plot, implying instead that Erdogan staged it as part of a bid to consolidate power. Gulen lives in self-imposed exile in Pennsylvania, and his backers operate education networks in Turkey, the United States, and elsewhere. The press credentials of at least 34 Turkish journalists were also revoked because the alleged ties to Gulen's movement, the Associated Press reported, citing Turkish media. Senior Turkish official described the travel ban on academics as just a temporary measure. As you surely know, universities have always been crucial for military jaunts in Turkey, and certain individuals are believed to be in contact with cells within the military, he said. Many academics have been critical of Erdogan in the past. The State Telecommunications Authority has also announced it's blocked access to WikiLeaks, the whistleblowing website, after it announced the release of nearly 300,000 emails from Erdogan's party. The site said it was releasing the emails, which could possibly contain material embarrassing to the government, earlier than planned, in response to the government's post-coup purges, though the latest of the email dates to a week before the coup took place. The government has also announced an important decision is expected Wednesday after a meeting of the national security leaders, raising expectations that more purges will follow. More than 45,000 military officials, police officers, judges, governors, and civil servants have also been fired, detained, or suspended during a mutinous faction of Turkey's military staged an attempt overthrow of the government Friday night, hijacking fighter jets and helicopters to strike key installations and security forces. Melvant Cavusoglu, Turkey's Minister of Foreign Affairs, said in an interview that the issue of civilian oversight of the military, a matter of long-standing debate with Turkish politics, would be addressed during Wednesday's national security meetings. A government official who spoke on the condition of anonymity because of the announcement has yet to be made public also said military reforms could be proposed. The military has long seen itself as the guardian of secularism in this mostly Muslim country and has staged a series of coups in past decades, but has been gradually diminished. Thousands of Turks took to the streets to prevent another coup, but the crackdown has raised fears that Erdogan, who described the plot as a gift from God, will use it as an opportunity to make the government more authoritarian. The government official said military reform would likely bring the Army Chief of Staff under the Defense Ministry and give Parliament more oversight of the military's budget and ranks. In order to change the Constitution without a referendum, Erdogan's party will need support for 367 members in Turkey's 550-seat parliament. Cavusoglu said it needs 330 votes to hold a referendum. The United States and Europe have urged Turkey, a NATO member and ally, to follow the rule of law and maintain democratic principles and amid the sweeping fallout from the coup attempt. In a telephone call to Erdogan on Tuesday, his first to the Turkish president since the coup attempt, President Obama strongly condemned the insurrection and lauded the Turkish people resolve against this violent intervention and their commitment to democracy. A White House statement said Obama urged that investigations into the perpetrators be conducted in ways that reinforce public confidence in democratic institutions and the rule of law. He said the United States would help the inquiry if asked. Last year, Turkish court overturned an order to close Gulen-linked schools in the country, but since the coup attempt, Turkey has also sacked 2,745 judges. Nearly 9,000 members of the Interior Ministry have been suspended, while thousands more police officers and soldiers have been fired. While rights organizations have complained that dismissals and detentions appear to have carried out with little investigation, Turkish officials contend that there has been long-standing investigation into the Gulen movement. Prime Minister Binali Yildirim said Tuesday that Turkey aims to remove the movement by its roots. Yildirim said that Turkey had formally requested Gulen's extradition and that this role in the events of last week was clear. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest said that Obama and Erdogan discussed Gulen and that early Tuesday morning there were materials presented by the Turkish government in an electronic form to the U.S. government related to Gulen's status. Earnest said that it wasn't clear whether the materials constituted a formal extradition request, but that they would be reviewed by the Justice and State Department, consistent with the 30-year-old extradition treaty between the two countries. But the president also made clear a couple of other things. Earnest said that first was that the United States doesn't support terrorists. The United States doesn't support individuals who conspire to overthrow democratically elected governments. The United States follows the rule of law. Extradition decisions, he said, are not made by the president, but through a legal process and the courts. So, there you have that. However, I will add this. In something I read in the last couple of days, it said that Gulen, the accused in all of this, works for the CIA. So it'll be interesting to watch and see if he actually gets extradited or not. So there is that little goodie. Well, it appears acting up. There we go. Cooperate. And the next article I have, this is out of Venezuela. We haven't heard much out of them for a while, so I thought I'd dig something up and see what's going on in Venezuela. This is off CBS News. Venezuela food shortage, family liquidates savings to stockpile food. San Cristobal, Venezuela. Tebby Gonzalez and Romero Ramirez still have their sleek apartment, a fridge covered with souvenir magnets from vacations abroad, and closets full of name brand clothes, but they feel hunger drawing close. So when the Venezuelan government opened the long closed border with Colombia this weekend, the couple decided to drain what remained of the savings they put away before the country spun into economic crisis and stocked up on food. They left their 2 young sons with relatives and joined more than 100,000 other Venezuelans trudging across what Colombian officials are calling a humanitarian corridor to buy as many basic goods as possible. This is money we had been saving for an emergency, and this is an emergency, Ramirez said. It's scary to spend it, but we're finding less food each day, and we need to prepare for what's coming. Gonzalez, 36, earns several times the minimum wage with her job as a sales manager for a chain of furniture stores in the western mountain town of San Cristobal, but lately her salary is no match for Venezuela's 700% inflation. Ramirez's auto parts shop went bust after President Nicolas Maduro closed the border with Colombia a year ago, citing uncontrolled smuggling and cut off the region's best avenue for imported goods. The couple stopped eating out this year, abandoned plans to buy a house, and put a for sale sign on their second car. There is no more sugar for coffee, no more butter for bread, and no more infant formula for their 1-year-old son. When Ramirez, 37, went to get a late night snack on Friday, he found nothing in the refrigerator. So Sunday, the couple donned their nicest clothes and hid fat wads of bills in their bags before heading to the border. They surveyed the stock in their renovated granite kitchen, an inch of vegetable oil at the bottom of a plastic jug, a single package of flour, some leftover cooked rice, no coffee. They set off in a 2011 Jeep SUV into darkened highways, the lights of hillside shantytowns glinting in the blue darkness like stars. At the crossing, scowling soldiers with automatic weapons patrolled a line that wrapped around more than a dozen blocks. The couple considered turning back, but within minutes, people started shouting that immigration officials were waving everyone through, and the line broke into a stampede. Gonzalez and Ramirez ran with thousands of others toward a bridge barely wide enough for 2 cars to pass. Soon it was packed as tightly as rush hour subway train. Some people cradled newborns, others toted dogs as they headed to a new life in Colombia. Most carried suitcases and backpacks to fill with groceries. The couple held hands to stop the crowd from pushing them apart. 2 hours passed. People sang the national anthem. Gonzalez's feet ached in Tommy Hilfiger wedged heels, and they had barely reached the middle of the bridge. People who couldn't stand the claustrophobia and heat doubled back to try to swim across the river, but soldiers stopped them. At last, the Colombian flags came into view. Soon the bridge opened out into a road lined with officials warning or waving, cheering, even doling out cake. No one checked ID cards beyond the reception line. Beyond the reception line, music played and kiosks sold products that have become treasures in Venezuela: rice, toothpaste, detergent, and sacks of sugar. Gonzalez cried behind her oversized aviator glasses. I thought the crossing would be easier. It made me feel so humiliated, like I was an animal, a refugee, she said. But look how different things are on this side. It's like Disneyland, responded Ramirez. Not only was the town filled with prized groceries, but everything was much cheaper than on Venezuela black market. Now, the only alternative for people who don't have time to spend in the hours-long lines for scarce goods that have become the most salient feature of the oil country's economic crisis. They changed their Venezuelan money into Colombian currency at the mall, where Gonzalez luxuriated in the clean, air-conditioned space as she window shopped for watches and handbags. As she browsed past the shoes, a TV report flashed on the store television. It was an aerial shot of the bridge she had crossed over, crammed with people. Humanitarian crisis, the headline said. Oh no, Gonzalez whispered. Other shoppers were indignant. That isn't Venezuela. That isn't us, said a woman who was looking at sneakers. Gonzalez crossed herself and left. It was time to go food shopping and get home. The variety at the mall supermarket felt unreal after so many months of scrounging in near empty stores. The couple debated over the best baby toothpaste. Gonzalez ran her hand over 7 varieties of shampoo. She examined each option in an aisle of pasta. While things were cheaper than in shortage hit Venezuela, they were pricier than they had expected. They decided to skip the flour and sugar, instead choosing 10 packages of the cheapest pasta. They went for cloudy soy oil instead of more expensive canola. Every price was checked and rechecked as the couple spent 3 hours deciding how to allocate their emergency fund. It's more expensive than we had hoped, but what matters is that it's available at all, Ramirez said. Other Venezuelans in the store, teachers, small business owners, and office workers poured over prices and reluctantly put things back. In the end, the couple bought enough food to fill 2 suitcases and a duffel bag, then slipped the stream of exhausted shoppers filing back to Venezuela. It hasn't been announced if Maduro will lift the border closure again next weekend. Colombian soldiers shook hands with the departing Venezuelans, but the kindness didn't lift their spirits the same way it did when they entered Colombia hours earlier. At home, Ramirez and Gonzalez stacked their hard-won supplies into gleaming white pantry cabinets. They still look pretty bare. So there's a recent update on Venezuela. That was from 2 days ago. And the next article that I have is off the Washington Post. Kansas City, Kansas, police officer shot and killed. A police officer in Kansas City, Kansas was fatally shot on Tuesday, authorities said, becoming the latest officer killed during a remarkably dead period for law enforcement. Police were responding to reports of a drive-by shooting about 2 p.m., said Terry Ziegler, the city's police chief, at a news conference Tuesday. Officers chased a car believed to be involved. When Captain Robert Melton arrived, he was shot and killed, Ziegler said. The officer was pronounced dead at 2:55 p.m. local time, according to James Howard, a trauma surgeon at the University of Kansas Hospital. Melton was 46 years old, according to the news release. There's a lot of pain and brokenness in our community and in our nation right now, and we just want to ask everyone to be prayerful and thoughtful right now, said Mark Holland, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City. Police offered few immediate details about the shooting, which came at a moment of intense anxiety for law enforcement nationwide after 8 officers in Dallas and Baton Rouge were killed in recent shooting attacks. We just want to encourage everyone not to jump to conclusions about what has happened today, Holland said. We need to do a thorough investigation, and we need to get the facts before we make assumptions about what may or may not have happened. Right now, we just need to be in prayer for the family and for the police department, not only in this department, but everywhere in our country. A prayer for our communities. Our communities are broken right now. He continued, my encouragement is we not go down a path of fear and conclusions and hatred, but we go down a path of thoughtful prayer, prayerful reflection about what we can do to make our community safer. Authorities were still investigating, and another press conference has been scheduled for Wednesday morning, according to Ziegler. Investigators had 2 people of interest in custody in the aftermath of the incident, and no one had been charged as of Tuesday night. Police said in emails to the Post a 3rd person had been released, an email noted. So that's what's going on in Kansas City. And let's see, what else do I have here? Well, we got this one off of LoHud, the Journal News. And this one says, social scene, Tappan Zee crane collapses. This happened yesterday. This is in New York. Uh, and this crane collapsed on a bridge, and I'm trying to get the article up here so I can read to you if it'll. Gee whiz, it's not giving me what I want to see. Huh. Let me try to reload that and see if it'll cooperate with me this time around. Well, maybe not. Well, it's not going to give me the article, but the URL to the article is down in the description of the video. So if you want to take a look at it, you can take a look at it, see if it works any better for you. But yeah, they had a crane collapse on a bridge in New York yesterday, and it kind of messed things up there. So you can take a look at that one, and I'll go on to the next one here. This is out of Oregon. This is what happened with the Bundys yesterday. They had their meeting with the judge to see about getting bonded out of there, and it's not going to happen. Observations of an Oregon lawyer by Eugene attorney Mike Arnold. Judge Jones said, Judge Jones, Ammon and Ryan Bundy to stay in jail pending trial. And this is the complete order on this. Defendants Ammon and Ryan Bundy appeared before this court on their joint motion to revoke detention orders and motion for pretrial release. After hearing arguments from the parties, I make the following findings. Ammon Bundy and Ryan Bundy each has a wife and children, a home, and a business to attend. Neither man possesses a passport. Defendants have strong ties to family and their father, who led an armed standoff in Bunkerville, Nevada in 2014. Defendants participated in that purportedly illegal activity and are now on court detained from Nevada federal court. 2 years after the activities in Nevada, Ammon and Ryan Bundy concede that they were instigators and leaders of the group that occupied the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, which they named the Citizens for Constitutional Freedom. The group was armed with weaponry with which to resist intervention by federal authorities. Authorities seized over 50 firearms, 6,000 rounds of live ammunition, and 1,000 rounds of spent shell casings from Malheur site following the occupation. Defendants directed the group to set a perimeter to control ingress and egress. They posted military-style armed personnel to create and patrol a perimeter of the site and to man an overlook tower. Ammon Bundy cut down a government fence at the refuge. Defendants ignored requests to disperse. They based their actions on their misinterpretation of adverse possession law and their misguided interpretation of criminal and constitutional law. As to Ryan Bundy, he does indeed present some risk of flight as demonstrated by his aborted attempt to escape custody. In Ryan Bundy's cell, jail personnel found rope made with multiple sheets tied together, additional strips torn from sheets, extra pillowcases, towels, clothing, and food. I reject his excuse that he was practicing braiding. While I find they do not pose a risk of fleeing the country, I find their participation in the armed standoff in Nevada and the fact that they condoned the use of an arsenal of weapons at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge demonstrate they believe they are justified in refusing lawful federal orders. Furthermore, they believe that placing an armed force between officials seeking to enforce lawful orders and themselves justified by their interpretation of the Constitution. Thus, I find it likely that if released, they may well ignore these conditions of release imposed by this court and enforced by the federal pretrial services officer. They may fail to appear for court hearings in trial. More dangerously, they may attempt to recruit another standoff or occupation, just as in the Nevada episode in 2014 at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge earlier this year, and to resist with armed forces federal authorities enforcing lawful federal orders. These factors are sufficient to satisfy me with clear and convincing evidence that no combination of conditions I can impose would reasonably assure their appearance in court or the safety of the community. Defendant's joint motion to revoke detention orders and motion for pretrial release is denied. Ammon Bundy's motion to consolidate pretrial detention hearings with Nevada Court number 881 is denied, and Ryan Bundy's motion for joinder to that motion, number 893, is moot. What the Nevada court does to its detention order is up to that court without intervention or consolidation with this court. It is so ordered and dated this day of July 2016. So there is that one, and there's some comments below that article if you want to read them, and that is in the description of the video. So that was the last that I have in the way of news articles for you today. But you know, I like to kind of bring you something maybe to make you smile, maybe make you think, and maybe help you when I end the videos here. And I was thinking of one this morning, and I don't know, this would almost make a story time vid, but I'll go ahead and throw it out at you here for your perusal, for something to think about. But I was sitting thinking last night about how much negativity that there is in the world, and all the nosy people and folks running around that apparently don't have enough to do, that want to cause trouble and stir things up. And I thought of something that actually happened in my life many years ago, and I found out real quick how you disperse people like that if they come into your life. And I'll share this with you because you might not have thought of this, but you know, I'm always on the comical side, or try to stay on the comical side of things, and I don't like to do harm to nobody if I can help it, and yet I don't want to be aggravated to death either. And years ago, I had a property that I was trying to clean up, and I was so busy trying to straighten that place up, and the neighbors were nosy. Oh my goodness gracious, they were nosy. And every time I was over there cleaning things up and working on the place, one of them would show up. I mean, you could set your watch by it. I wouldn't be there 30 minutes before one of them would show up. Oh, what are you going to do with the place? Are you going to try to raise some animals here? What are you going to do? It wasn't none of their business what I was going to do. They just wanted to carry gossip. And I'd say, well, I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm just cleaning the place up, and I'll make up my mind as it goes along. Well, after about 3 weeks of this, I was fed up. I thought, Lord have mercy, don't they have something to do at their own house? Why are they here bothering me? So I got an idea. As each one of them would leave, they would always say to me, if you need anything, if you ever need any help, just let me know. Okay, well, we'll see about that. So the next one that pulled in started all that rumpus about, oh, have you made up your mind what you want to do with the place yet? I said, no, I sure haven't. Gosh, I'm awful busy. I don't know how I'm going to get all this work done. He says, well, is there anything I can do to help? I said, you sure can. I said, do you see that stack of gates down there in that shed? And there's a big old stack. I mean, there must have been probably 24 of these big old steel frame gates, the kind that you make like horse corrals and stuff out of. I said, you see them down there? And he said, yeah. And I said, I need them moved over into the barn, back there in the back part of the barn. And I don't think I can do that by my little old self. And he said, well, I'll move them for you. That's not a problem. And so he went down there and wore himself out moving all them gates and went home. And a couple days later, another one pulled in, and same business. You know, what are you doing? Well, have you decided what you're going to do with the place yet? Well, no, I haven't decided. But man, I tell you, I'm working myself to death here. I'm so tired, I can just drop over. Well, is there anything you need? Any help that you need? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, if you wouldn't mind, I have a big old stack of gates back in the back of the barn down there, and I need them moved over here into this shed. So he went down there and he moved all them gates from the back of the barn up into the shed. He wore himself out and he went home. And a few days later, another one showed up. I mean, there must have been about a dozen of these guys. And every morning, I knew that every morning they went down to the truck stop and had breakfast, and they was all comparing notes and gossiping and carrying on, you know. I thought, now, how long is it going to take before they start comparing notes on this? Well, the third one shows up, you know, and he's like, do you need any help with anything? Yes, as a matter of fact. Oh, Lord, I don't know how I would do that, but I need them gates moved down there in the back of that barn. I sure wouldn't want to ask you to do it and inconvenience like that. Oh, no, I'd be happy to do it, he says. And so he moves all the gates from the shed back down into the back of the barn. And, you know, after that, they stopped coming around. It didn't matter where them gates was. When I needed them, I'd go get one and put it where I needed it to be. But it sure gave them something to do. And it taught them not to come around. So if you got somebody that's bothering you, you find some busy work for them to do, and you just keep them busy, because obviously they're too idle. They need something to do, and it'll get them off your back. So with that, we will close out the video for today. I hope that gave you a chuckle and a grin and something to think about, and nobody gets hurt and everybody gets something to do. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.